What's up, world? So, Kai, what's up?
I'm missing the Victoria's Secret fashion show.
That ain't nothing. I can tell you what it looks like. Thongs and bras.
I'm about to go.
We should be there.
I know.
We should go.
Where's it at? Is it?
It's here. It's in the yard. It's like.
I said
right,
we all go right after this.
Oh, it's in the
it
Navy
might be
Yard.
over. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's going live now as we go live.
Oh, wow.
So shout
But
out to
why didn't
everybody
you
that's
schedule
on
this? Like,
hey, I mean, I didn't know. Like, that type of thing, you get the tickets, like, last minute.
You know, they have to
Hey,
edit it, so we can always show
Right.
up late, and then they edit
Eunice
it.
is my girl.
Right.
You know, we just found that out.
Right.
The overlapping of
Eunice?
friendships.
Eunice.
yeah, because she said Eunice.
Okay.
How do you say that?
No, it's fine. Go on.
The
I had to ask, like, yo, what am I?
Yeah,
I gotta mess
The
up.
overlapping of friendship circles is
Crazy.
just
It's
so
crazy, right.
to me.
Right.
So shout out to leader of the Cool Moms.
Hey G.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of those like unexpected surprises
It
because
is.
when I walked in, she was like, "Oh yeah, now we met." And then when she said where we met, she goddamn right. We absolutely met.
Yeah, and
shout
I
out
was
to
there
Derek.
too.
Shout out to Malik.
I
Yes,
was there too.
fam.
You people right. You was there too, right?
Yeah, and how
That's
did I
family.
miss that? Were you all at the block party?
I spoke at the block party. I
You
was
did.
there.
What am I saying?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
we
spoke at the
were
block
all
party.
clapping and really
Yeah, I
excited
spoke at the block
about
party.
the message.
I don't know. Did you come
I
or you
remember
came later?
I wasn't there. Did I come later? Where
Well,
was
I had like 50
I had
people
went
with me
to
that
Bridget
day.
and Kevin's walk party.
Mm.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So yeah, I love the Kirklands. The Kirklands are one of my
Yeah.
favorite families.
They're the best family.
Mama Kirkland, I just saw her. She came to the block party that we did, Bed-Stuy Live. She came to Bed-Stuy Live on Saturday.
Oh,
So
okay.
shout out to Mama Kirkland. But it's funny because when I'm prepping, and I told you this off camera, when I'm prepping, most of the time, it's like, for me, it's like I put guests in two boxes. Either I know what they do,
Right.
And I know how I'm going to approach that, or I don't know what they do, and I'm going to approach it like that. So, for
Right.
example, if it's an April Walker, if it's a Milk, if
Right.
it's a Ralph McDaniels, I know them, and I know what they
Right.
do, and so I approach it that way. So when I saw your bio and your picture and the flyer came across, Kai sent me the email, and I read through it, the first thing I said was, wow, I don't know this woman. The bio reads proper, like she's lit, right? She's getting to the business. But I don't know her. And then the second thing is, a lot of times we talk to people and they have very linear paths. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. Like, I'm saying, like, if you're a writer, you're a writer, you're a writer, right? If you're a drawer, you're a cartoonist, you're an
Right.
illustrator, right? And it's very easy to talk in linear modality to a person that's all, oh, I've been rapping for 30 years.
Sure.
You know what I do, I'm a rapper, right? When I read your bio, I was like, wow, there's a lot of different lanes.
Yeah.
Here, and so I'm excited to have this conversation. And the fact of the matter is, I thought I didn't know you, but guess what? I know you. Shout out to across the street. What's them across the street? Navy wine.
They're so yummy.
Are they still Navy wine?
I
I
don't
guess
know.
so. They didn't take the thing off.
Yeah, I don't know. We gonna call them Navy
We're having a
wine.
little rosé.
We're having a little rosé in the fall, a little
Yes.
autumn
It
rosé,
just says wine and spirits.
Okay.
little autumn rosé.
Yes.
But I'm ready to
I'm
get
ready.
into this interview, and so I want to present to some and introduce to others Miss Eunice LIRIANO.
Hola. Thank you for having me on the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, why do
I
they
love
give
that
y'all
we're
the
so,
middle of the month?
you know, because that's how they do us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's so whack. September
Yeah.
15th, October 15th.
Yeah.
We're just happy to be here. We're in the middle of, we're wearing our pink. I'm wearing my beautiful
Absolutely.
pin.
Breast cancer month.
Supporting
Right.
our breast cancer
Absolutely.
thrivers, not survivors, you're thrivers.
Right.
That's the work that I'm doing currently, but have been affected, you know, indirectly, directly, you know, we all have.
Absolutely.
1 in 8 women get diagnosed, so
So I just got
We gotta
honored.
support them.
I just got honored at a breast cancer event. Shout out to Timothy Marshall. And so when I was on stage accepting my award, I asked women to raise their hands if either them or someone that they knew was affected by breast cancer. Everybody in the building raised their hands.
Marlon, the numbers are terrifying.
Right.
1 in 8,
Right.
1 in 3 will be reinfected, not reinfected, but you know, re-diagnosed.
Re-diagnosed.
1 in 100 cases, one of them is a man,
Right.
which people don't think about.
Right.
But the problem that is happening now in breast cancer, and I won't dive too much into it because we could be here all hour with this, is 40% of the new cases are women of color, predominantly black women, and we know why, right? The disparity in healthcare.
Right.
What we eat, what we don't eat, those
Right.
kind of things. So it is an adversary. It is something that it touches all of us. And if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of your family, your loved ones, making sure you're getting your mammogram, we will lose this fight. So the best thing I did two things that made me become a real adult. I've always shared this with my younger folks, my young gals. When I turned 18, I opened up a bank account at Chase. I had like $4,000, which was a lot of money back then.
18, you was lit.
Yeah, man. Oh, totally. I had my own place. I was working, going to school, and when I turned 40, getting my mammogram. To me, that was such a moment for me in becoming an adult. My second wave of becoming an adult.
Right.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, now health is really taking the forefront of what I do.
Right.
Stop eating deli meat, of course alcohol, but still in moderation. We just have to make sure that we are just taking care of ourselves, and we have to go get our mammograms. Ladies, it is not a game.
This conversation literally echoes last night, and shout out to the Brooklyn NAACP, Assembly Member Stephanie Zinneman, Lupe Todd Medina, Motley Rice Law Group. We had an event last night called Embrace Our Roots, where we were talking about the toxic nature of relaxers in women of color, right? And how those toxicities lend themselves to an uptick in cancers, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, all the cancers, right?
Yep.
And so, part of the conversation was, how to adult, right? And this idea of having regular checkups, and this idea of knowing a specialist, having a heart specialist, having a nutritionist, and how quite often people just meander through life and not really take hold on none of those. And I thought it was totally a black man thing. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I get my self-check every year, but I grew up in a household where my mother made my father do it.
That's right.
Right? And so because I saw that relationship from the time I was like in my 20s every year, I scheduled my physical on my birthday, right? So I'm always there. I was surprised at the number of black women in the crowd that also don't do it.
There's a fear of going to the doctor.
Right.
I mean, listen, a mammogram hurts. I'm not gonna lie. Let's not sugarcoat it.
I
mean, the shit is a pancake.
Yeah.
By the time you are, in the machine, but it's gonna save your life. Right? But you're also checking yourself monthly. Around your cycle, that's when, things are moving around and shifting. You gotta do self-check.
Right.
Because you have a year between.
Right.
A lot of things can change within that year. So if you're not taking that opportunity to check yourself, ain't no one else gonna check you.
You're a very assured woman.
I am.
I feel it. The energy is like,
yeah, man.
You're very assured.
I am.
Where'd you grow up?
Uptown, Washington Heights.
Washington Heights.
Yeah.
Norman Thomas.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah, okay.
They closed down.
I know some people that went to Norman.
Yeah, Norman Thomas, 33rd and Park. Take that 6th train, 33rd Street.
What type of child were you?
Creative, loud, very, very disobedient. In that I'm the oldest of 5.
Right.
Marlon, I always wanted to do what I wanted to do. I made my own clothes. I wanted to wear my own thing. I was disobedient, but I felt that
the oldest child is always the most disobedient.
But I also took care of my siblings, right?
Right.
But while I was disobedient, I was very aware, right? I was very alert. Any room I walked in, I knew how to read the room very early on. But I also, I think that's because you're the oldest. But I was disobedient. I would talk back to my mother, but I would get smacked because you don't talk back to a Dominican mother.
Two-parent household?
Yeah, till I was about 8. My parents divorced. And my mom remarried. But yeah, a wonderful, I never, we were Latin immigrants. We came here from DR. I was born in the Dominican Republic, proud public school grad. But I always knew that I needed to make money. I needed to have my own place. I lived on my own when I was 17, turning 18. That's
so
why.
Before you left out of high school, you had moved out.
I had moved out the year I graduated high school. My parents moved to Atlanta. My family moved to Atlanta, and I was like, not doing that.
Yeah, you're gonna do your thing.
And I had my own apartment at 17. My grandmother came and lived with me. Right? I was paying the bills. It was not a game. I always made money.
I'm trying to find out, where did this sense of confidence and individualness stem from? What was it about your life that built in you such a strong will?
I will say 2 things. My mother, when my parents divorced, before my mother remarried, my mom had 3 girls. I always say this, and this is not a knock on anyone who does this. My mother never took a handout. My mother worked 2 jobs, took care of her kids. And Marlon, I wouldn't see my mom. I would go to school, And then when I came home, we had the lady that took care of us from the neighborhood.
Right.
So my mother worked nights. By the time
Right.
my mother came home, she's tired. Like
Right.
there was really a disconnect in like our schedules. But my mother never took a handout. But we were always fresh. We smelled good. Our hair was done. So I always felt that like no matter what is going on, like we're gonna be fly. So there was that assertiveness, right? That confidence. My mother always said to me, you should always be smelling good. Your nails should always be done. Your hair should always be done. However that happens, not go to the salon, but how even you.
Whatever happens, right? This is what it is.
So there was always this really wonderful kind of, you always being well coiffed and looking good and smelling good, and that to me, aided the confidence, right? And again, being the oldest of 5, I had to set an example.
Right.
Like there was not going to be ever a time where I was going to be like the
Less
chick in the
than.
neighborhood or less than.
Right.
Like the minute that I was able to move out of my neighborhood, I did. I mean, I go back to my old neighborhood and people still live in the neighborhood.
Facts.
Again, no knock on you, but like, don't you want to see something different?
Right.
Take another route from the train.
Right.
So I always wanted.
And that's not a neighborhood that longevity exists. Like that's different
At
than
all.
saying someone who grew up in Fort Greene and still lives in Fort Greene, right?
That's different.
It's a different thing.
That's a different
right.
thing.
Right. Because
Right.
Washington Heights is the bottom.
different.
In a lot of ways.
Sure, it could be that in the Bronx. Absolutely,
Right, in the
we always
Bronx.
got
In a way, like,
yeah, we always got the bottom of the barrel when it came to funding.
I mean,
or
there are other
whatever.
bottoms. Brownsville's the bottom,
Well,
right? There's parts of
but-
Bed-Stuy that's bottom. But that's what I'm talking about. That the energy I'm saying in the neighborhood
Sure.
is such that in order to succeed, one must lead.
Completely. There was never a time where I would go. And I will tell you, before I moved to Harlem, I will say I had my own place. It was a duplex. It was fly, but there were drug dealers across the street
Right, what block you lived in?
on 176 in
okay.
Amsterdam, and I just wasn't really. And it was down the street from Hybrid, from Highbridge Pool. If you know Hybrid, the pool you never went to.
Right.
And I'm like, I come home late because I was cute, I was skinny, I was going out with my girls, but I didn't like coming home. I mean, listen, the drug dealers knew me. We that's Eunice. She's cool, but like I didn't like the late night. I didn't like that. So I was like, you know what? I come home late at night. I'm at Justin's. I'm working. I'm going
When
to
you
school.
graduate high school?
Then I gotta say my age.
All right. All right. Look, don't say that.
Taisha,
Yeah, don't say that. Right. I'm gonna ask you a
You
different way.
mean-
I'm gonna ask you a different way. I'm gonna ask you a different way. I'm gonna ask you a different way.
I'm in my 40s.
I'm gonna
Let's
ask
be
you a
clear.
different way
Let's be
because you
clear.
mentioned Justin's, right? So
I was underage. I just want to put it out there. We ain't gonna talk about underage, but I was under 21 when I worked there.
Was that your first restaurant job?
Yeah.
What did you do there?
I was a cocktail waitress. I manned me and my girl Sophia. She had just moved to New York from Buffalo. We manned the entire cocktail. If you know Justin's, it was a cocktail area, that big couch, the bar, and then whoever wants to go eat dinner. I didn't care about. I ain't serving no food.
Right.
I'm doing drinks.
Right.
And we got paid.
I remember I was like, how old was I? Maybe 21, 22. I went to Justin's. I had a suit on because at the time I was working as a broker at TD Waterhouse. It was TD Waterhouse before it was TD Bank.
Yeah.
So I was working as a stockbroker there. I went with a friend of mine to Justin's. I got on a suit. I go in Justin's and it's Tretch and at that bar, at this end of the bar, watching the Knicks and the 76ers. And I got a seat like 2 seats away from Tretch and I'm watching the game. And my whole thing is like, I'm going to sit here, goddammit, and milk the shit out of this. Like,
Nowhere else to sit.
Right, I'm here, right? I have arrived. So Justin's was that type of space.
Oh no, Justin's, let me tell you, my first job, I was able to save so much money. And again, this was when expense accounts weren't a thing.
Right.
The music labels were giving you money.
Right.
I can't tell, we met every person, every rapper, every athlete, every black, white, blue. I mean, but at the same time, it was sexy, it was fly. People came there. They
It
were
was in a good neighborhood.
It was in a great
21st,
neighborhood.
5th and
There was never beef.
Right.
They had great turkey meatloaf. I discovered a lot of black dishes at Justin's as a Latin girl from uptown.
I was going to talk to you about food.
Oh my God.
Because Dominican cuisine rates very high to me. If you take all the Afro-diasporatic foods, Jamaican, Cuban, Dominican to me is up there. I love Dominican. There's a Dominican restaurant in the Bronx. I can't remember. It's near Beekman Houses. You know Beekman? It's near Beekman Houses. Man, I love that restaurant. I love Dominican food.
I gotta tell you, I love learning new things, and I watched this, to your point about all these culture, the Caribbean and all this food experiences. There was a show on PBS that Skip Gates did called Blacks in Latin America.
I remember.
Right, you remember that. So he did Brazil, Mexico. and we all cook the same food.
It's all the same shit, yes.
But just in different
Correct.
ways, right?
Right. Plantain.
All of it.
Curry.
All of it.
All of it. Right.
So I was so enamored, and I fell in love with that. Learning that, people in Brazil were I know people in Brazil eat what we eat, but just it's the same food in Peru and Mexico.
Correct.
It's all the same thing, just repurposed.
Correct.
Greens. I mean, we ate greens,
Right.
Caribbean, but it wasn't properly. It wasn't made that way, right?
Right.
So when I discovered greens as an adult, I said, wait a minute, my mother was making this as a salad, right? She was cutting it up, chopping it up, putting her, vinegar and salt. So
yeah, rice and beans is a staple of Afro-diasporic people across the globe.
100%.
Any nation of blackness has a derivative of rice and beans.
100%.
It could be rice and peas, arroz con verduras. It could be whatever you call it.
Paella.
Right.
All of it.
It's rice and beans,
Same
right?
thing.
And so yeah,
Totally.
and I think I remember him touching on some of those points in that joint. So you was at Justin's. How long you stayed at Justin's?
I was there 2 years. I was there from 97
I just want to touch
when
on
they
something
opened.
because I worked in the
So
restaurant and nightlife industry, and I think sometimes people don't understand the amount of money one can make in the right situation in nightlife, in restaurant nightlife.
Yeah.
So like when I was a GM of Milk River, I had bottle service girls that were pulling $1,100, $1,300, $1,500 a night.
Yeah, easy.
Without question.
Yes.
What type of money were you pulling?
Back then.
Yeah, back
So you
then.
figure you got, you had the Black Diamonds parties on Mondays.
Black Diamonds, yeah.
Right. So this is the thing. You also have to be really savvy and smart and know when to work. I don't work weekends. That's bridge and tunnel. We don't do that.
Right.
I work Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And I so Monday, Tuesday were the industry nights. So a lot of times, it was you're there to mingle, mix. So you had like a flat fee, but then people always hit you off.
Right. You always get tips.
Right.
It's the tips.
It's the tips, right?
It's the tips.
Because you got your whatever it was
Whatever
back
it
then,
was, right.
$2.50 an hour.
$2.50 an hour, right.
Back
That's
then.
what it was back
But
then.
the great part was like Monday nights was Cheetah across the street.
Right.
So after every Knicks game, Nets game, or whatever, all the players would come to Justin's. That would be the pregame, and then they would go across the street. And and Dikembe, may he rest in peace. I always say this, that him and Alonzo always took care of us. And I remember they always would come in together. I guess they were friends at the time, but there was never a time I knew that if Dikembe and or Alonzo walked in, I was gonna get easy 500, 1,000 just from them.
Boom.
In addition, additional
Right.
to
So
whatever
regular
else I
stuff,
was
right.
making. So
Right.
there were times. Monday nights I would leave there with 300. There were times that I would leave it with 1,000. All-Star weekend. I remember that weekend. Me and Sophia worked. I gotta tell you, Marlon, we left there. I probably made $5,000 that week.
Right.
That weekend, like it was just nuts. And this is I'm going back, 20 years,
Right.
almost 20 years. So
Shit, more than 20 years.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And I
right.
don't
You
even
don't
know
want to
what
say
it
age.
was.
I'm
not
in 20 years. You
I'm
said 15
in
years.
ladies, I'm in my 40s. But yeah, so the money was great. But I will say to you, it's like my friends who were strippers. They were stripping to pay for medical school. They were stripping to pay for their kids. I was working as a waitress, as a cocktail waitress, to pay for school because I was paying for school. And I was putting my money away.
So you was in SUNY Purchase?
Well, no. By then, I was already at Hunter
You was back
because
at
I got that internship at MTV that I mentioned. So I couldn't.
So you was working at
Forever.
Justin's. You were
At Hunter.
and you had an internship.
Yes,
Tell me
I
about
did.
the internship.
So I had so through my cousin who's just wonderful. She had a friend who was a producer. So Jack was at MTV and she was like, listen, I can get you an internship. And I was like, listen, I'll do whatever it is. Because while I didn't want to be in the industry, I loved the behind the scenes aspect of the work and of the business. And he was behind the scenes, was a producer.
Right.
And he was like doing rock and jock. He was doing a lot of cool stuff. And again, one of the few black producers at MTV back then, who's from Brooklyn, love Jack. And he gave me an opportunity. And granted, I was in the edit booth. I was doing sound dubs. Like it was just so dope. Like I got to see like really behind the scenes, and I really became in love. I just saw how MTV incorporated music, fashion, sports into this space, and then I got kind of shifted, and then I started doing some TRL work, which was cool. So I was there for like NSYNC and Britney, so I did all the cool pop stuff.
So how were you managing life then? Because you're at Justin's at night,
Yep.
you're at MTV during
Yep,
the
I'm
day,
at school.
you're at school. How you managing this?
I gotta tell
You
you,
sound like your mother. You sound like
Yeah, I
when you
know.
said, "Oh, well, your mom had 2 jobs. You didn't really see her." You sound like you kind of internalized that shit,
Totally.
and that's how you were moving.
and I think and people call it work-life balance back now, but back then it's like you just gotta make it work and you gotta make it happen.
Right.
But I also was this is the thing, Marlon, that people don't realize. If you do the shit you love, it's not work.
It's not work.
I was loving my job at
Right.
Justin's. I was getting paid.
Right. That is life.
I love school. I've always been academia has always been very important to me. and I was doing something dope. Like I was at MTV, I was, working with men of color, people like, when that didn't really happen. There were very few people that looked like me at MTV. Or Jack, who was a big producer at the time at the show, or at the channel. So I was doing all the things that I love. I still do all the things that I love.
Here's a question that's gonna sound funny because you're already kind of on the runway taking off, but what did you want to be when you grew up at that time?
I wanted to be an interpreter for the United Nations.
I
I swear to God. I swear to you.
Like,
It is
wow.
I'm telling you, I wanted to be an interpreter. Well, there were two things. I wanted to be a dancer, clearly not happening. Because I loved music.
Can you dance?
loved, I'm a dancer. Anyone that knows me, everybody, you all know
I'm
me.
a rapper.
We know. But
So,
I'm a dancer.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm a
You got-
dancer.
yeah.
I'm
I
a
feel you.
dancer.
I feel you 100%.
And, but I wanted to be an interpreter for the UN. So, because I loved languages,
Right.
I was bilingual, and I loved to communicate. I loved to meet people. I always loved to travel. My mom traveled a lot, with my stepdad. So I was able to, I'm like, what can I do? And then I remember we had done like a school trip to the UN. And I'm like, this is dope. And I kind of met some folks. But this was me, as a kid growing up. But then as I started really understanding and learning, I'm like, you know what? I want to be behind the scenes, but I love fashion. I love music. I love hip hop. I got into hip hop, believe it or not, late, if that even makes sense as a New Yorker, because I grew up in New York. But I just love.
What music were you listening to?
If anyone, whoever knows me since I was young, I loved heavy metal. I loved Journey. Well, that's not heavy metal, but I loved Metallica.
Like
I
Living
love.
on a Prayer?
Oh my, that is my album. Slippery When Wet. Don't start. Don't make me talk to Tico Torres and John Bon Jovi, giving you government names. No, I was obsessed with Nelson, the Twins. I loved the Bangles. I loved Debbie Gibson. Like I loved the
Manic Monday.
Oh please.
Walk Like an
Oh my
Egyptian.
God, all of it.
What was
Come on,
your
I know
favorite
Susanna
all that.
Hoffs was like
What you
everything.
said, Kyle?
What was your favorite to dance to?
Ooh, to dance to Whitney Houston. I mean, I love Whitney, obviously. So I like Whitney, a little shimmy, shimmy. But to dance, that's the thing. Like, even though I got into hip hop late, I was always a Tribe Called Quest, fanatic growing up.
Right.
And of course, LL and, Rob Bass. When I turned 12, I played 2 records at my birthday party. Salt and Pepper and Rob Bass. Those were the 2 albums I had. And of course, Michael Jackson Thriller. But I loved, R&B obviously, but I was a heavy metal. I loved, my MTV, my Billy Idol. Like, I was really corny
So
like that.
while you were working at BET, did you ever kind of delve into
MTV.
that side? MTV. What I said?
It's a BT.
MTV. Right? Did you ever delve into that?
No, because when I was there, I then got a job working in fashion, and then that job in marketing was going to put me in kind of that space of music, fashion, and so I was able to do everything I loved at Madden.
Right.
So I did that after MTV.
So once you went to Madden, that's when the marketing piece
Oh,
started
yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
centering.
Oh yeah,
Now,
that it
did
became
you-
very clear.
Did you understand what marketing was before you got into it?
I understood that marketing was being the eyes and ears of a brand. I understood that marketing was sales.
Right.
Even though I hated sales, it is sales.
Right.
So I knew that I'm the eyes and ears of a brand. And I cannot be the eyes and ears of a brand if I'm not a fan of the brand. And I love the brand. I mean, what girl back then, didn't like Steve Madden? So that's how I got the gig. And then I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of great things in my career, but they're like, give us a fun fact. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is really, growing the business from a brand awareness visibility perspective. And in 2004, while Steve was in prison, because he went to jail, as we know, we sponsored Beyonce's first tour, her Dangerously in Love tour. And it was Steve Madden, L'Oreal, and Pepsi. And to put Steve Madden, who was seen as kind of this brand that was kind of lower tiered, along with L'Oreal and
That's a big deal.
it's a huge deal. And I did that deal, and I was very proud of that. I would sit there with her mom and her dad and negotiate, and through Track, who helped us with get the deal. And then I went on tour because we did all the clothing, not the clothing, excuse me, we did all the shoes. So I was like, what's your fun fact? Well, I went on tour with Beyonce. That's kind of dope.
That's
when
very
you're
dope.
22, 23.
And that's early Beyonce. That ain't even like
No, the early Beyonce.
right.
Like,
Like you on the rise.
And it was, we did 32 dates, and it was one of the proudest things that I've done because she's still relevant, she's still cool. And I tell people this because I've met a lot of folks, we've all worked with celebrities, we all met them, and they are, and I know Jake separately through work when I was at Vibe, but they're the nicest people every time, no matter where I am in the world. If she sees me or I see her, she says hello. And that people don't do that. And she remembers me, not obviously remember her, but you know, to me, you have to be memorable for the right reasons.
Right.
And there's always a time when I see her that there's love. So that to me, you know, that's a proud moment for me, because you know, they're all assholes, most of them, but they're cool.
And that's what I was gonna ask you, not about if they were assholes or not, but what I was gonna ask you is because there's this thing so now I've been doing this work with Hip Hop Closet for a couple of years now, talking to people and talking about their trajectory towards success.
Sure.
Talking about how they wound up in the positions of impact and influence.
Right.
And the one thing I feel like is that positioning is more important than talent.
Sure.
Like, it's not really about how good you are at a thing. It's about your positioning to be available to do the work. And if you're available, you can kind of learn on the fly.
100%.
But if you have a good work ethic and you got a good attitude and you have good positioning, those are the keys to success.
100%.
And that's kind of what I hear with you. It was like, yeah, then I was here and I just did it because I was there.
Right. And it was also a thing where, thankfully, it was a time where like you weren't under a microscope, right? I mean, yeah, you had goals, you had to make your numbers or whatever, but like we were experimenting. We were doing real
everything was new, right?
Everything was new. We didn't even have e-commerce back then, you know, the brand.
Right.
So, I mean, we had a thing where like, I remember 112 was in town and I knew the guys through, you know, my MTV work, and they came to the store on 34th Street, which is still there. And next thing you know, we're literally doing an album release at the store.
Right.
And people got out, you know, we got
The
volunteers.
signs.
But it literally, and Michelle and my girl Michelle Huff, shout out to Michelle, PR maven. Her and I are at the store. We're like, wait a minute, we could make this an opportunity, and we literally were pulling people off the street, holding up 112, you know, posters.
And then it becomes an album
and it
release.
Literally was an album release.
That's
we're coming in, buying shoes, getting autographs, photos, and it became this whole like natural, cool, you know, opportunity for brand awareness and visibility.
Right.
So I think also the opportunity to have had that opportunity to me, it was significant in my career. And then from there I figured it out, and then I went, you know, just up from there.
Now, during all this speedballing, are you happy with your life, with your personal life? Do you have a personal life? It seems like
I wasn't, you know, and I say this to my young gals. I was, you know, I hadn't turned 30 yet. You know, I was skinny, whatever. I was cute. I had hair, and
you still got hair.
No, I had long hair, and that's like my little thing. Like skinny and cute doesn't mean I was skinny. It was just like my little tagline.
Right.
Oh, I'll take a little more.
Yeah.
And thank you, Marlon. And then I wasn't really dating. I wasn't really meeting folks. I had, you know, a really wonderful relationship through college, and that fizzled. But I was, you know, in all transparency, I'm meeting rappers, you're meeting athletes, because that's the space that I'm in.
Because that's you're in, right.
And that is just not, for me, what I was looking for. So I was hanging out.
But did you have to kind of like, was it a process to understand that you weren't looking for that?
Well, no, I was out to dinner 7 days a week.
Right.
I was very much not staying in the house with the 7 jobs and school and everything. But I always, like I said, I always said to myself, I know what I'm not looking for. So the minute that you showed me what I wasn't looking for, we're not.
Right.
Thank you so much. You're so wonderful. I will split the bill. No. So and then, you know, I so right before I turned 30, my other friend Michelle, said, you know, I have a guy, and you know, and set me up with D, and here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Shout to D.
It was a blonde date, and here we are.
It was a blonde date?
Oh, blind, not a blonde. I'm a little blonde now, but no, it was a blind date. But throughout my, you know, but I will say I became a mom late. You know, I really focused on my relationships late because I was very driven.
You was driven.
I wanted to make my money. I wanted to, you know.
Do you package some of what made you to share with younger women? Like, do you go on panels? Do you do presentations? Like, I want to kind of back in now because for me, you just really are archetypically driven. Like, you are the archetype of a woman of color that was in a space where she simply wanted to dominate her position.
Totally, always.
What do you do now?
So I now am the managing director for a breast cancer research foundation. It's called Play for Pink. I'm wearing my pin very proudly.
So I did good wearing my pin.
I'm very proud.
Look
Yes,
at that.
we are really representing our folks. And Play for Pink is a kind of arm of the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, the largest foundation that is really not exploring, but it's the large organization giving money to breast cancer research.
Right.
We are an $80 million arm of that piece of the work of the business, and I run the entire Play for Pink business. So, but my work is ingrained in leisure sports, so whether you play golf, tennis, martial cards, whatever you play.
Let me ask you. So, when the NFL has the that's you.
That's not me. So, for example, Jerome Bettis is on our board.
Okay.
Jerome, his mother had cancer, and I can speak freely because he speaks to that.
Right.
He's on our board at Breast Cancer Research Foundation. I actually it's funny, Ryan Clark had this like really funky jacket on the other day.
Yes, Pink and Green.
You saw that,
Pink
right?
And Gray. Yeah,
and I reached out to Ryan. I was like, listen, Ryan, we gotta do something. We gotta talk. And it's obviously not gonna be for 24, for 25, because I'm only doing things, and I said this morning. I had a meeting with Estee Lauder, and I said this morning. I'm only doing things, Marlon, that benefit us, that is for us, that is only upward trajectory, that is only bringing me joy, and that I only want to do. I am not doing anything that is not uplifting us, women, my child, because the world is so dark and it's so fucked up, and we should only be doing things that are going to support us. And this work that I'm doing now is so significant because of what I said earlier, the 40% of women being diagnosed of color. Right. So if I need to walk around with a bullhorn, wearing my pin, and letting folks know like this is what we need to be doing, I will do that. So to answer your question, I've been on panels. I was on a panel a few weeks ago talking about women's empowerment and what we do, but there's never ever going to be a time where I will be quiet or silent about things that affect us. It's not going to happen. You know? And
what are some of the initiatives that you guys are working on in this moment?
Yeah, great question.
Because like there's so much. The reason I'm asking, because like there's a breast cancer walk that just happened recently. Like there's, you see it specifically during Breast Cancer Month.
Right.
Like you see the work.
Right.
What part of that goes into what it is that you direct?
So right now, what's happening in medicine, like it's happening in any category, is AI. So we at Breast Cancer Research Foundation and at Play for Pink, we fund researchers. So you're a researcher whose focus is on disparities in Black women in healthcare and why they're getting breast cancer. Right. We're going to give you $250,000 to go do that research every year. So I'm a researcher and I want to focus on AI and collecting data and how we can better view why this is happening or what's not happening. So that is the research that we're funding. So we're funding metastasis research and why women are living longer with metastatic breast cancer, why using AI as a mechanism to get and gather that data quicker.
And who are you guys working with in the AI space?
So we have researchers all over the world that are focused on that. I mean, I can give you the name right now because we have over 250 researchers globally, but they're specific, and a lot of them are in Europe. But specifically, we are focused on survivorship, what it takes to survive, data around that, what it takes to live with a woman with stage 4, metastatic breast cancer. What does that look like? Those women were not living 5-10 years ago. They're living now. Why is it that Black women of color are getting cancer at a higher rate? We know why, obviously, because of the disparities. So there's researchers focused on all of those things. Specifically the disparities and the AI, which is very hot right now. In addition to that, it's up to us to spread that word, wear our colors. But breast cancer is all year round. It's not just October.
Not just a month.
Yeah, it's all year round. But again, like I said earlier, you got to check yourself. You got to check your friends. Make sure that everyone's going out and getting their mammogram. Men as well.
How much of what you do now is rooted in your time in hip hop space and early marketing space? Your drive, your work ethic, your performance level, how you view things.
Yeah. Everything that I've ever done in my career has been rooted in music, right? Has been rooted in the richness of who we are, whether it's salsa, whether it's hip hop, rap, because I'm a dancer and you're a rapper. But I think that because I'm doing work that affects our people, our culture, to me, that's the foundation. And from that, all that other stuff sprouts out, right? At every event that I do, at every opportunity that I get, I'm highlighting, my athletes, my music people, like I'm always incorporating them in everything that we do because everyone copies us, everyone follows what we do. So everything that I've done in my career is rooted in our richness, right? Our meat, and our, you know, our dopeness, you know, like we're the change makers. We've been the change makers.
In culture, completely.
In everything.
In everything.
Seriously. Food, everything. Clothes, everything.
I want to know, when did you find your purpose? Because this is a purpose-driven life that you are speaking about. So I'm interested of when you found your, because I don't know, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think it was the Justin years or the MTV years. I think this came later on.
I can tell you exactly when it was. In 2012, my dad got very sick. And when my dad got sick, and listen, I'm not naive, but I was naive at that time. I realized at that moment how we are treated based on what insurance we have,
Correct.
what we look like, what language we do or do not speak. And I remember when my dad got sick, we were, and I won't name the hospital, but we were uptown, and she said something real snippy to me. And I said to her verbatim, I will come through this partition if you do not give my father a bed. Because at this point, we had been there 9-10 hours.
Right.
I've come into hospitals bleeding from my knee one time, and they're talking about, what's your insurance? I'm bleeding to death.
Correct.
That's just the country that we live in, and that's just those, you know, the way that it works. However, at that moment, the way that my dad was treated, Marlon, I knew that I had to think about what I was going to do next. That wasn't fluffy, that wasn't fun. I mean,
showy, right.
Which, listen, still doing it all.
Right, all of it is.
With a purpose.
With a purpose, right, exactly.
So that's really when I started to transition and really think about, what do I want to do? What is my contribution? Right? So I was volunteering and doing some really great work with Dress for Success, if you're familiar with that nonprofit, which prepares women to, you know, change their trajectory when they come out of prison or wherever. And I started working there. I was VP of Development and Marketing, and I was like, this is what I need to do. But I was still doing fashion, I was still doing music, I was still doing all the things that I loved, but with a purpose. I worked with every artist. I mean, Angie Martinez would come and support our work. Like, we were doing dope stuff at DFS, and I knew that I was able to do what I love with a real big purpose, helping people that, again, look like us. So that's how it all started. So from DFS, I went to continued kind of my journey in nonprofit. But I will say, at that point, I started making less money.
And that happens.
Right.
When you find your purpose.
When you find your purpose.
Yeah.
But now I'm back, and, you know, we're rocking again. We're rocking again. But I was doing, and I think that to me was really what changed my perspective and my thought, was like the way that I saw my dad being treated. Because I was going to go through that partition, and I'm not a violent person. I don't fight, but I'll kill you. Because my father was in pain, and you were giving him, you know, shit.
Right, and ain't nothing like being having a daughter as a father. Because I know Michaela will kill a motherfucking
kill,
absolutely,
death, maim,
absolutely,
all of it.
But I asked you that because, like, for me, you know, it really didn't come out of conflict. I really found my purpose in the community space because I made the decision. I didn't want to take the train to Manhattan to work anymore. I just said, you know what? One day I just was like, yo, I just want to work in my community.
That's right. And
I don't want to leave, and I don't want to take my skill set out of this space.
Totally.
And that was a decision that cost me monetarily because, you know, I could have been working anywhere in Manhattan, in corporate America or whatever.
Right.
But when you make that decision and you stick to it, it fulfills you in a way that's different. And the money will come.
Eventually
the paper
it comes.
will come.
It always comes.
Right? Because anyone who is dedicated and consistent in whatever they do will find a mode of success
100%.
in it. You know what I'm saying? You
but
show
you're
me
happy.
something. I'm very happy.
That's all that matters.
I'm happy.
And
Look,
the kids are happy.
Yeah, the kids love it. My life is centered.
Right.
I don't transact time for money.
Right. Because everything is a transaction.
Everything is transactional.
Everything.
I transact skill set for money.
Sure.
I don't transact time for money. Right? And I never want to ever do that ever again. I never want to be like, oh, it's 4:49. I get off at 5 o'clock.
Right.
Like, I work all the time. This is my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why when you said the thing about, well, you know, it really wasn't about work-life balance because I love the shit that I did. That's how you should be.
Totally.
But it's difficult to teach that, right?
Yeah, no, that's innate. It's very innate.
It's an innate thing.
Totally.
You got to believe in it.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes I find myself, and I was going to ask you this, sometimes I find myself like speaking these paradigms of purpose And I find that they are sometimes received insensitive because not everybody is blessed with the opportunity to find their purpose.
Right.
And to then calculate and strategize how to use it for monetary
That's
benefit.
hard to do.
It's difficult to
Hard
do.
to do.
Like sometimes your purpose is you're an educator, but all you can do is whatever, right?
Sure.
Teach or whatever.
Sure.
But and so when you first off, do you have mentees?
Do I? That's a great question. I thought about that.
Do you have a mentor?
Well, mentees, yes. Do I have a mentor? I have women that I go to with my deepest thoughts and questions, and I don't consider them mentors, but I guess they would be.
Yeah.
Mentees, I have a lot.
Yeah.
I will say I'm very proud. There's a woman that I hired a long time ago, and her dream was to run PR at Disney. And Lindsay's running PR at Disney. She's so dope. She's so dope. But she came to work for me years ago, but I always supported her. I was always the person that they called if they needed a reference. I'm always gonna help you.
Right.
And Lizzie doesn't look like me, but she's me.
Right.
Because I was her at her age, and I was hungry, and I was dedicated and determined. So I do have few mentees that have just taken over. From a mentorship perspective, I will say this: there's a woman, Carmen, that was on my board at DFS. She's Latina. She's half Chinese, half Dominican. She's so dope. First Latina to have her own show on MSNBC. And every time I have a financial question, a board question, something really strategic, I'm like, hey, C, what's up? And she always takes my call. And that to me is important. I wouldn't have gotten my job at Vibe if it wasn't for Beverly Smith. I say that all the time.
Shout out to
Anybody that
Bev.
knows, shout out to Bev.
I love me some Bev.
I've known this woman 30 years, and Bev was like, you're dope, you're smart, I'm gonna get you an interview. And that's how, a lot of this stuff also happened. So shout out to Bev, but who's still a boss, all these years later. But yeah, Carmen, my mom is still, rocking and doing great stuff, traveling the world. She's retired, she's raised her kids. There's just some gals that, I reach out to, but, having my mentees really excel and getting their end dream job, and knowing that I've helped them.
What do
feels
you
good.
serve in terms of the mentee-mentor relationship? Let me explain to you why I'm asking, because I have a mentor and I also have mentees. So for my mentor, he's somebody who I can go to with everything that's going on in my life, and I don't expect him to fix it. I don't expect him to even make recommendations. What I expect from him is for him to use his perspective and to share his perspective with me in a way that inspires me to go back out, right? My mentor is Beehive. You probably know Beehive.
Of course.
Yeah. So I saw Beehive the other day, right? He told me to get my finger fixed, right? But
We're working on it.
yeah, we're working on it. But I'll go to his office and I'll just sit there for a couple hours. And part of the shit that I do, I'm not gonna lie, is I sit there and he takes meetings with other people, and I just kind of sit and watch.
Yeah.
I don't say shit. A lot of times I'm in Beehive office and I'm talking the least.
Sure.
But then with my mentees, it's a bit different, right? Because what happens is people see you as a valuable resource. And so they want to kind of, so how you do this, how you do that. I'm a much better mentee than I am a mentor.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Because for me, for my mentees, I'm very skeptical, right? Because I want you to kind of understand how I got it, right?
Right.
But I'm also compassionate. I'm a very compassionate person. And so I'm going to help you out. I'm going to try to put you in position and, do the things. I don't know what the right way is. In terms of me with my mentor, I know I could just go and listen. I know what my strategy is there.
Sure.
Just go there and listen, just soak up
Right.
game, and then come and do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So with your mentees, what is your goal with them?
Similarly to what you said, I think because, and I don't speak for all women, we are not all taught about finance. We're not all taught how to negotiate.
Right.
One thing that I tell all my people, all my gals, you never, ever, ever take what they offer you. You're never, ever going to tell me what I'm worth. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I just had this conversation the other day, this woman, she had, you know, a friend, she was like, I've been at this company 17 years, and they gave me 17 years, and they gave me a 4-month package. I said, absolutely not. You did not sign anything, right? You're gonna go to them. I've been here 16 years. I get at least a year. So I always like to say to them, always fight for what you think you want or what you're worth. No one should ever tell you what you're worth, ever. In a prenup, in a salary. I remember when I took the job at Vibe, I remember vividly, they offered me a $25,000 salary, and I was like, yeah, no, I need 32.
Right.
I got 32.
Shit, life was so good back then.
Wasn't it?
$32,000
$7,000 was $3 extra at the check.
Fuck, 32 a
You
year.
know?
That's when gas was like 79 cents a gallon.
And you know, rent was $600 a month.
Right, rent was $600. Right.
But I feel so. For me, it's to your point, like not telling you this is what you have to do, but this is what you shouldn't do.
Right.
Don't ever let someone tell you what you're worth.
Right.
So I tell them that. I also share a lot about, you know, my experiences, which is not always their experience, whether because they may not be Latina or because they may not have grown up in New York and they see things differently. I always say, walk in the room and read the room and just be assertive. You know, don't like kind of dim your light. You know what I mean? Like don't kind of shrivel, because sometimes we do that.
Right.
You know, and listen, I'm walking in a room. I love going out by myself, going out to the movies, and because I walk in a room and I feel so confident, Marlon, and not in a conceited way.
Right.
Because people call that conceited. I'm confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm assertive, like you said, but I always share, like, walk in and just be present.
But it's a winner's mentality, and that's the very basic way of saying it.
Yeah.
Like that's the word that I can use that we can agree upon what it is, right?
Sure.
But it's a mentality like in all things, the good is gonna come out of it.
Absolutely.
And if you believe that, if you believe in all things in your life, you're going to land on the side of the good that comes out of it. Then you walk in rooms differently. If you're like, there's a book called the Tao of Pooh. The Tao of Pooh, it's about Buddhism, right? And so I love Buddhism. This particular book talks about the characters of Winnie the Pooh. So Pooh, Piglet, Tigger, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But Eeyore is the one I want to discuss because Eeyore is the donkey, the ass. And so in the Tao of Pooh, they discuss how everything is always negative to Eeyore because Eeyore is always negative, right? He is the type of person that the rain cloud is always raining on, versus Piglet is always happy. Piglet does not have a bad day at all,
Right.
because he sees the world as an opportunity for adventure.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, Eunice, it's really about how you see yourself.
Right.
That matters.
Yeah,
It
so
ain't
true.
about what's out there.
Yeah.
Because regardless about what's out there, if you see it as an adventure or a chance, a challenge to accept, then that's what happens.
Right.
If you see it as a rain cloud and a chance to be depressed, then that's what happens.
Absolutely.
Right. And I get that from you. When we said that, that's why I said I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you about that winning mentality.
You know.
Did you play sports?
Oh gosh, I wish. You know, I loved volleyball. My mom played volleyball. My cousin played in college. I thought I was really good at handball. Yeah, no. But I will say that I picked up tennis as an adult.
I
and
love
I have a
tennis.
very mean backhand.
You
just
golf?
saying. Because I now have to golf because of work.
Yeah.
I'm starting lessons.
Yeah.
So all my friends play golf. I don't wake up early. I'm not a morning person, but I now have to take lessons.
Well, let me know. Put me on if y'all going to a golfing
I'm
thing.
gonna let
Let
you
me
know
because I
because
love golf.
a lot of the work that I do is, you know, in all these hoity-toity golf courses. Like I said.
So take off the work attire. For the last 15 to 20 minutes, I want to talk about Eunice the woman.
Mm-hmm.
You have a child.
My daughter is 4.
4 years old.
She is.
4, that's an age.
Oof, is it? Kiki was there over the weekend. She saw her.
That's
She
an age.
is.
She's still trying to sleep with y'all.
Oh no, she sleeps with us.
Yeah.
We put her in her room. And we figure out like around midnight, maybe 1. She is like the creeper of creeps. I don't even feel her coming in, but she puts her leg over my leg. Like it's very sweet, you know. It is, you know, I am her chief of staff. I work for her. She's my employer. And it is the greatest job I've ever had. It's my greatest achievement. I chose to have a family. You know, we chose to have a family late in life. And she's me. She's like, Mommy, this doesn't match. Mommy, I want to wear my sparkles. Like, she's such a girl.
Right.
Now, I hate pink, even though you're wearing pink.
Right.
But like pink was never my favorite color, and
Right.
all she wears, of course, is pink.
Right.
So now
What was your favorite color? Black, heavy metal.
my favorite color, I wear black,
Right.
gray,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, heavy
purple.
metal.
I love purple, heavy metal,
Mhm.
golf. But she is just a joy. She's creative. She loves music. She loves dance. She, you know, she speaks Spanish, which is very important in our house, you know, to be bilingual.
How did being a mother change you?
I'm still not patient, but I've developed some level of patience. I've become so much more empathetic to mothers. You know, I mean, I always was, but like now, a mother comes on the train with kids, I just immediately
Right.
get up, take care of the kids.
Right.
I think she has given me this sense of like, you know, pride.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
I'm responsible for this human, but I'm also responsible for how warm and how charismatic and inviting and good she is to others. So I have to craft, how do I craft that? How do I create that?
Whew.
So
You talking
that's very
wow,
hard.
For real.
It's
I
very
got a
difficult.
6-year-old right now. I
Oh, God
love my
bless you.
son. My son is an amazing child. Like your daughter, he sneaks into my bed at night
Mm-hmm.
and he'll say, "Well, Daddy, just let me lay here in
Mhm,
the corner. I just
mhm.
want to lay here, right?" And I'd let him lay there. But he is somebody who is passionate and emotionally
Right.
aware, and it's about just manipulating those things for the
Right,
better of
right.
him. So teaching him how to utilize her. Very competitive, plays soccer, wants to slide tackle everybody. The coaches is mad at him, but he's very competitive,
Sure.
right? But good traits. So you, as a parent, that's your job to weed out the bad traits
Sure.
and to accentuate the good traits.
Sure.
I want to know if you are. That's not the question. This is the question. What do you think? What is that? Is it
Is that
fireworks?
thunder or fireworks? I don't know.
I thought it was a train.
I think it's fireworks.
It's fireworks.
Anna Banana, what is that?
I saw it.
Yeah, I saw a
Oh, you know,
reflection.
I wonder if it's part of the show. Maybe it's part of the show?
the
The
The Victoria's Secret show, because it's here.
did Kai
Yeah.
go to Victoria's Secret?
Kai loves
Yeah.
us. She loves the show.
Yeah.
She loves the show.
She's
So-
having that back.
What has changed you more? I
Uh-huh.
think I know the answer to this, but I want to ask it anyway. Being a dedicated partner to Derek
Mhm.
or being a mother? What has been the most challenging and what has changed you more?
The most challenging has been being a mom, in that I've had to completely change my life in the way I do things.
Great.
Like, Eunice, do you want to go out for drinks? I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not going.
right.
Do you want to go out for drinks? No, I don't. I'd rather be with my kid watching Moana for the 17th
Right.
time.
Yeah, because we watch everything
Oh no,
tens of times.
it's now Coco, which is the best movie ever, Oscar winning, and Moana. I've watched both of them 117 times. But they're the best movies ever for kids. But anyway, so most challenging is becoming a mom. And, you know, I think my relationship with Dee is really the first real mature relationship I've had in all my years. So that is because he's also older than me, because he's, you know, been around the block more than I have. So I've had to kind of step it up. And kind of let go of certain things, but also becoming, you know, it's a, you know, like anything in life that you love, you have to be, what's the word? There's a word that I'm looking for, with the C.
Diligent?
No, it
Even though
starts
you
with
said
a
a C.
No, not compassionate. You have to compromise.
Compromise, yeah.
Like that's hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is very hard for me.
I gather that.
Change management is hard for me. You know,
I gather that. You had a
compromising is hard
duplex
for me.
at 12 years
I
old.
mean, I was 5, you know,
He was 5
paying
years old
the
in
rent.
Harlem, right, with a duplex.
So, you know, living with someone, so, but as someone who is very adverse to change, the change has become wonderful, and you know, you grow, and again, the maturity level of it is real.
Right.
Like, Eunice, do you want to go out? Do you want to go to Nobu tonight? No, bitch, I can't go because I got a kid.
Right.
But, you know, having help is great. The fact that we can afford help is great. God bless that. You know, not all of us have help. But the best thing I've ever done is just, you know, it's the best job I've ever had. It's the most fulfilling thing, and it's my greatest achievement to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, but it's rhetorical. Are you happy now?
I am. I have most times I am elated. And there are times when I'm like, damn. Because I worry about the other stuff.
Like what?
the world, you know, where our kids are growing up into. I worry about, you know, my dad's health, you know, which still, I mean, he's obviously alive. He's doing great. But, you know,
How old is he?
my dad he just turned 75. We just came back from Washington. My father loves museums. My love of art and creativity comes from that. But we just took him to the African American Museum. He was like crying. It was really a beautiful, powerful moment for my sisters and I.
Really
Yeah, it was really great. But you know, the lady at the place finds like ginger ale cans and cookie bags under his bed. I'm like, bro, you're diabetic. But you know, he's in cahoots with the lady in the kitchen.
Right.
So she gives him like
He's
Oreos. Yeah. You know, that Latin
like,
game.
Yo, wow.
You know, there's like, you know, Coca-Cola and ginger ale cans under his bed, cookie wrappers. I'm like, yo, bro, like, how old are you? Like you said earlier, to me, there's age appropriateness for things. Like, you are 75 years old. You're a little late. You're a little old. Like, let's, you know, come on.
Right.
But, so, you know, so I worry about those kind of things. And I just worry about my friends, you know, and their parents. And, like, you know, again, as a mom, you become so much more compassionate and aware and empathetic about things. Mm-hmm. So while I'm happy and I'm doing great work and I'm wearing, you know, the best pin I've ever worn, which is this breast cancer pin in my work, I worry because our world is so dark. Mm-hmm. And there's people that, you know, there's just a lot going on. And I worry about that because our kids, you know, and what they have to jump into. How do you feel about
this election cycle? We're 20 some odd days
away.
Have a drink. Have a drink. Mm-hmm. I wish it was tequila, but it's rosé. Same.
So I had a conversation earlier about this. Mm-hmm. I think whichever way this goes, I will probably cry, sit on my stoop, and ponder. I really want to move out of the country if it goes the other way, but I think if women vote, if people of color vote, you know, if Latin people vote the right way, you know, I think we'll be okay. But regardless of which way this goes, there's gonna be a lot of emotion with all of us, really. But as a woman, I will say, and I'll just say this in the political space, as a woman, anyone that is trying to take anything away from you reproductively, why would you even support them? Forget that you're black, you're Latin, you're of color, and you're racist.
Period. Any
candidate, whether you are left or right, that is trying to take away your reproductive rights of any kind.
Period.
To me, that the answer is very obvious.
I was in a barbershop today. I was talking to my barber, and I told him unequivocally there's simply two issues that you gotta have a strong boundary on. The first is reproductive rights. No politician, no human has the right to tell a woman what to do with her body.
Ever.
So any elected official that is running on that platform will never get my vote.
Sure.
The second is qualified immunity.
Absolutely.
Cops, I'm the son of a cop.
Right.
Right? So I'm not speaking, right? I'm the son of a police officer. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you that no cop should have qualified immunity over their actions in the street. Because what happens is it should always be up for skepticism and analysis.
Sure.
Because you're dealing in a very chaotic space. You can't give one side immunity and not the other. So if your candidate is pro-qualified immunity, you can't vote for him. And if your candidate is against reproductive rights, you can't vote for him.
And a convicted. Yeah.
I mean, but I'm just saying, just off the issues, totally. Just those two issues alone, I don't even care about the rest of the stuff. Those two issues alone, and so my work has been in educating people about this because I work in community.
Right.
I talk to young black men all the time that want to vote for Trump, but when you have the conversation with them, it's not because of issues. It's by and large because Trump is like a empty rebel.
Yeah, he gets by. Yeah, he gets over. Absolutely.
He talks slick.
Yeah, that's attractive to some.
And it's attractive.
I get it.
Some.
Listen, I get it, but be attractive for the right reasons.
For the right reasons.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
Before we leave, one question, 3 answers. Mm-hmm. Give me your top 3. You're well traveled, right?
Claro.
Give me your top 3 places on Earth.
Oh gosh. Well, in bed with my Bubba, my little nugget. That's one. Monte Carlo. It's the most magical place. Monaco. It is.
Yeah, my man just told me I gotta
It
go out
is
there. Actually,
everything.
he was telling me that.
I've been 3 times. It is everything.
Monte Carlo.
It is the fly shit ever.
That's the fly shit.
I was the brokest bitch in the country, and I was fly, but I was still,
Right. It's
and
that type of shit.
Yeah, it's real high level.
Right.
And I would say my third, I mean, I can always say DR, but that's obvious. But I would say, Paris. I could live in Paris. It's dreary at times. I could live in Paris. Paris is so, it's this just, we talk about innateness. Like, it's just innately chic. It's innately, I mean, listen, sometimes they're not very keen on Americans, but, we win them over always. We're multifaceted, multi-layered.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say, in bed with my girl, Monte Carlo, which is still in Europe, and Paris. Yeah. I mean, DR because that's obviously default, where I was born and my favorite place. But yeah, I love it. But those are
fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Ones.
Monte Carlo, that's the joint. I gotta get to
It is everything.
Monte Carlo.
It is so fabulous.
Yeah, I gotta get to Monte Carlo.
I always think of Bond. You're going to the casino.
Right.
It is so fabulous.
Right.
So
Yeah.
chic.
I gotta pull out my suits. I gotta pull out my racing
you
gloves.
can't go there. There ain't no flats. We would joke when we would stay at the Fairmont and you're at the curve. At the where the
roundabout.
The roundabout where they race and. You have all and these corny, first of all, no disrespect to my cruise lovers, but I hate cruises.
Yeah,
and all the cruise people with their Hawaiian shirts and I'm in like 5-inch heel, I mean decked out, and they're like in Skechers.
Right.
I'm like, oh God, like give me a break. Monte Carlo is not for that type of crowd.
Right.
It is for us, fabulous all the way.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so chic.
It. Anything you want to promote before we get off? Because we're at
we're at time. So
Kaisha done went to go see.
Kaisha left us.
Yeah,
she went to go be with the skinny chicks at Victoria's Secret.
Right.
So no, I wanna really talk. Like I said, I want to close with, breast cancer awareness, making sure we're out there getting our mammograms, making sure that we're supporting our girls who are going through breast cancer or recovering as thrivers, not survivors, thrivers. And, Play for Pink, is my organization. We do incredible work around survivorship, around breast cancer research. So please follow us on social. And I'm just so thrilled to be here and to share, all these great nuggets with you. And thank you for all this great work that you're doing and you're about to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon.
Eunice, that was great. That was good.